What's up, fight fans? Welcome to Mr. Mustache MMA News. Today, I want to discuss this Saturday's fight card in its entirety. Izzy versus Joe Pyfer from top to bottom. But guys, before we get into it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to continue getting more MMA content by yours truly to help the channel grow. All right, guys, getting right into it. This card on paper doesn't look so great, but as you start breaking things down, it definitely is a under the radar type of card, right? I mean, you have the former champion Izzy taking on the up and coming Joe Pyfer. I know rankings wise it doesn't necessarily make sense, but in context wise it kind of does. And you have a couple rematches in here. Alexa Grasso, Macy Barber, the Tainara versus Bruna Brazil fight is also a rematch about 6 years in the making. We have some guys who have been around for a long time. Chiesa, Nico Price, Julian Erosa. Terrence McKinney's on the card. He's taking on Kyle Nelson. Ignacio Bahamondes is on this card. Chase Hooper's on this card. I mean, Navajo. This is a fucking. As I'm sitting here, it's a pretty fucking good card. So we're gonna start at the top here today. If you guys haven't seen, I've already done kind of like a separate video on Izzy versus Pyfer, but I'll kind of go over it again here just to do the entire card. Now I've picked Izzy. I think Izzy's going to get the job done. I think that this fight is going to be very reminiscent of when Izzy fought Paulo Costa, when he fought Marvin Vettori the second time, maybe even in a sense of when he beat Jared Cannonier. As long as he stays moving and doesn't stay stationary and doesn't get comfortable, always have situational awareness of kind of where he is in the cage at all times. I think that he just will be too elusive for the bull of Joe Pyfer, who looks better and better every single time he goes out. His fight against Abus Magomedov in this last fight was just, he showed his well-rounded ability, his grappling ability, submission skills, and I can see him getting, wrapping up Izzy's legs, dumping him on the ground, taking his back, maybe even getting a rear naked choke like DDP did. We can see that happen. We can maybe even get Joe Pyfer blitz Izzy up against the cage and catch him with a right, catch him with a left, put him away. Kind of how he did against Marc-Andre Barriou. Pyfer has ways to get the job done in this fight. It's just, I don't know, man. It's really, it's more or less of the question is Izzy washed? And I don't think so. I think he's motivated again. He was at a time where, he got the boogeyman off of his back in the Alex Pereira victory back at UFC 287. And we haven't seen him win since, right? And I think a lot of that, he had the fight with Sean Strickland where he got fucking beat up for 5 rounds. Had the fight with DDP. We've definitely seen a lot of stuff in the media where everybody's turned against Izzy. So I'm sure there's a lot of confidence issues that have kind of come with that. And he's already been at the top. He does feel a little underappreciated, even though he shouldn't feel underappreciated. So there's context to this fight. He's lost 3 in a row. Joe's won 3 in a row. It does kind of make sense. And I think Izzy's going to turn back the clock. And I think he's going to get the job done this Saturday. I don't know if it's going to be knockout or just, I don't know. I see Joe Pyfer being very tough. And I can just see Izzy just peppering him with jabs, leg kicks, head kicks, question mark kicks, all those things. I can just see Izzy picking Joe apart throughout the fight. Next up, we got the rematch, Alexa Grasso, Macy Barber. They fought a few years ago. Back and forth fight. Macy is all pressure, all grind, wrestling, and she has really good power to match. Her ground and pound, her strikes from top control are brutal, devastating. And then you got Alexa Grasso, who is, on the feet, very good box. She has good hands, elite hands. She plants on her feet. She has ill intention. She wants to hurt her opponent. She has decent wrestling. She had the victory over Shevchenko where she got the submission. And I think this fight is going to play out very similar as the first one. I'd like to give like a different take, but I see Macy going out there being vintage Barber, putting on the pressure, getting Alexa against the fence, getting some takedowns, but I see Alexa being able to get back up and make Macy just constantly have to work. And as we see going into the second half of the second round, going into the third round, we're going to see Alexa start to take over with her hands, punish Macy Barber on the feet, and just be able to take the fight where she needs to take it, because I think that she can get up whenever she wants to get up. I think she has the strength and leverage, and she has the hands to match to make Macy pay once they are on the feet. Kind of force her into these wrestling exchanges where she's going to blow her wad. Just my opinion. Macy could go out there and turn the, say, fuck that. It's my turn, and put on a wrestling clinic. I just don't see that happening against Alexa Grasso. Next up, we got the veteran special, and Michael Chiesa versus Nico Price. Was supposed to be Carlston Harris. He had to pull out. But, we have Chiesa, tall, long, and lanky, great leverage, phenomenal submissions, good wrestling, basic striking, but he doesn't really try to do too much. When he does, it is fucking backfired. We saw that with the Anthony Pettis fight. So as long as he doesn't try to do too much out there on the feet, just let his basics work to the ground and get Nico Price to the ground, hopefully get a back, maybe I see a rear naked choke for Chiesa if he is able to get Nico to the ground. I'd like to see him get the back, work the back, maybe even get into some backpack positions, working off of the cage and shit like that. But Nico Price too, right? Yes, he has a bit of a salty record. He is no longer in his prime, but he is a guy at times has been a world beater, and he has at times knocked guys out in some very strange positions off of his back. The James Vick, where he had the up kick, and also the Randy Brown fight where he was off of his back and he hooked Randy's head with his foot and had him stuck up against the fence and hit him with a hammer fist off the back and fucking flatlined him. So Nico has this really weird ability to find power in not so advantageous positions. We just find weird leverage, right? And no, he's on a 3-fight losing streak to Nikolai Veretennikov, Jacoby Smith, Tempa Garimbo, right? And each one has kind of looked worse than the last. And it was February 7th, the last time he fought, and it was a pretty nasty knockout, but he's not fighting so much of a dangerous striker in Chiesa, so it makes sense why this got matched up. But Nico can get it done. He can put Michael Chiesa away, especially off of his back on the ground. So Chiesa has to mind his P's and Q's from taking shots from top position while he searches for these submissions and whatnot. But I got Chiesa on this fight. I just think that he is just a way better, more well-rounded mixed martial artist than Michael Chiesa. Than Nico Price. Next up, Juliana Rosa versus Larian Douglas, where this is interesting because you got Juicy J, who is very unorthodox, right? A low, wide stance, almost a karate stance in a sense, uses, a variety of kicks, very awkward. Just his movements is just very weird. It's one of those things where it's hard to emulate. If you see the shadow of Julian Rosa, that's him. And on the ground, he has some pretty slick submissions as well. Arm bars. I think he's got about 14 submissions in his career, if I'm not mistaken. He's got quite a lot. 31-12, 14 submissions. He's never been subbed himself. He also has 12 wins by knockout. Has been knocked out himself 7 times. But his win over Christian Rodriguez, submission. Ricardo Ramos, submission. Knocked out Darren Elkins, Hakeem Dawodu, Steve Peterson, Charles Jourdain, Nate Landwehr, Sean Woodson. Those are all victories, right? Now, he lost to Bruce Leroy and Alex Caceres. Melky Costa, who's beating everybody right now. Grant Dawson, Devontae Smith. He's lost to really good fighters as well. But this fucking dude, he's got a loss to Paddy Pimblett, really? Cage Warriors, no shit. He's, bounced around bantamweight, featherweight. He can do it anywhere. And I think, but Larian Douglas is good in the sense of he's patient, he's composed, fast, a sharp kickboxer, lots of power. So I think Arosa, he's got a lot of knockouts, but here he's got to get the fight to the ground, and I can definitely see that happening. I can see him even get a fucking knee bar leg lock. I can see something like that happening for Juicy J. I could even see an arm bar happening for Arosa. But Larian Douglas, he's tough, built like a brick shithouse, moves forward, doesn't waste any energy, picks his shots very well. So I can definitely see Larian. His record kind of shows too, I don't know. I how do I go against Juicy J? It's just like you just can't. Julian Erosa is a fucking dog. We're going for the victory with Julian Erosa here against Larry and Douglas. By submission, too. I'm picking submission. Fuck it. I normally don't go by that. We're going for submission. Next up, Mansoor Abdul Malik taking on, what is this man's name? Sorry, I can't. It's not clicking. Yusri Belgaroy. Belgaroy? Yusri, blah, blah, blah. I can't say that. Can't say it. I'll sit here and stutter all day. But he is coming off of that big victory over Asmat Bakayev. Okay, as a kickboxer, I think he's like 27-7, something like that, maybe 34-7. But out of those 7 losses, 4 of them, 2 each to Izzy and Alex Pereira. So it shows during his kickboxing era, he fought the best of the best. Didn't always go on top, but he definitely was that elite to where he was in, earned himself a second fight with Izzy, earned himself a second fight with Alex Pereira. This is a guy who, on the feet, is somebody to not fuck with. I thought Asmat Bakayev, I was massive on him before that fight, not really understanding who Yusri was. And once I saw, like, oh, fuck, okay, I understood immediately who we were dealing with. And this guy is very fucking dangerous. And against Mansoor Abdul Malik, who is more well-rounded, he's 9-0, he's undefeated, he's got good wrestling, a sense of urgency, he's very confident, he's very strong, 28 years old, all wins by finish. But path to success is he's got to get the double leg. He's got to get Yusri onto the ground, and he can definitely get a submission. That can happen. It's all about getting Yusri to the ground, who's tall, long, lanky. Probably will have good leverage on the takedowns, but clearly a kickboxer, right? So I can only assume Mansoor is going to do everything he can to get the fight to the ground, try and get the submission. This one I feel is more 50-50 because last time I bet against Yusri, fucking was lights out. Took Bakayev, flatlined him. So I guess I'm going to go with Yusri in this fight. I think he's going to take the O away from Mansoor Abdul Malik this Saturday. That's my risky pick. That's my risk pick. Come on. Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson, right? This is a crazy one. Someone is going out in this fight. You have Terrence McKinney, who just normally comes out like a bat out of hell, do or die, and that's usually the case. He's either going to knock you out or get knocked out. And if I can get my fucking computer to load, oh my God. This is what happened. I did my taxes last week on this laptop. First time I've done anything that's like not podcast related on this laptop, and now it's like slow as fuck. All right, 31 years old for Terrence McKinney, coming off the loss to Chris Duncan. Before that, 2 wins over Slava Klaus and Damir Hadzovic. Had the loss to Esteban Ribovex. Terrence is a guy where he came into the UFC. Just like a fucking wrecking ball. Matt Frivola, Faraz Ziem, just put these guys away. But then when he ran into some of the guys who could match his striking, match his explosiveness, Drew Dober, Ishmael Bonfim, Sadikov, Ribovex, Chris Duncan, didn't go his way. So now he's come out and said that he's going to go out into this fight more patient. I think that that's exactly what Terrence needs to do. He's the type of guy who has so much power. And if he just picks his shot a little bit better, that stamina can, he can find these knockouts in the second round, the third round. This I think can happen. And against a guy like Kyle Nelson, though, who might just bring the fight to Terrence this time and really force him to strike, right? Force him to kind of be more reckless, be more vintage, right? Where Kyle is coming off the win over Matt Frivola, but before that was knocked out by Steve Garcia, where it just did not look good for him at that time. Got knocked out by Billy Quarantillo, choked out by Matt Sales, knocked out by Diego Fajeda, a really good win over Bill Algeo. I think I'm going to go with Terrence in this fight by knockout. I just think that his wrestling is better. I think he has more power in his striking. Now, I think that Kyle Nelson probably is a better boxer. I don't know how accurate I am on that statement. I just have that feeling. But I think Terrence is going to get the job done by knockout against Kyle Nelson here. Next up, Ignacio Bahamondes looks to get back into the winning track after losing to Rafael Fiziev over Tofik Musayev. Tofik Musayev. Ignacio Bahamondes, right? What's not to like about this guy? Tall, long, and lanky. Has like this like mix of karate, kickboxing style, and has this like mastery of his range and front kicks, and sticks to the basics very well. But at times when he fights people who kind of mix it up better than him, who kind of get it to the ground, he struggles. We saw that with his fight against Fiziev. We saw that, god dang it, I forgot who it was that beat him as well. But we've seen it. But then we've also seen him just be on fire. Manuel Torres, I mean, fucking lit that dude up. I mean, Manuel went into that fight completely like, I'm just going to fucking go for it. And against somebody who is as measured as Ignacio Bahamondes, bad move. Bad move. But here against Tofik Musayev, coming off the loss to Miktabek Orlabai. Before that, spent some time in Ryzen, spent some time in Bellator. Got a win over Sidney Outlaw. He's got a win over Patricky Pitbull. Good amount of knockouts, but not really any sort of competition. 0-0, 0-0, 6-5, 13-11. And one guy who was 16-1, he lost. Darren Cruikshank, okay. And his loss to Miktabek Orlabai kind of really tells me too in first round Kimura. And Bahamondes, you know, he's not ranked. He just hasn't really been able to find his footing. Still young, 28. But just struggles in the MMA aspect of MMA. It's just when people are able to mix it up. But he's got, you know, he had that weird triangle choke against Jalen Turner. But Jalen wasn't there in that fight whatsoever. And I think that if you just have a Bahamondes who's willing to just kind of, I don't know, like, he just needs to be able to show up more and round his skills out a little bit better. Not, you know, he has to be willing to go with the flow. Yeah, it's not always going to be his kind of fight. But I think against Musayev, I think that this is a good fight for him to get back on the winning track. Probably get a knockout victory. But I think Musayev is going to bring it, though. He's supposed to fight Alfie Davis in Bellator before he came over. Next up, Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson. Now, is Chase still coming off that loss to Hernandez? If this will ever fucking load. Yeah, so he hasn't fought since August where he lost to Alexander Hernandez, where he just, you know, he really just got beat up in that fight. And Chase is this guy where, I mean, we have seen him grow on the job. Anybody who is not a ranked opponent, Chase Hooper is probably going to beat the shit out of them, right? He's still 26 years old, still growing into his body. But, I mean, some of his fights, Daniel Tamer, Nick Fiore was a fun one. Jordan Leavitt was a really good performance. His performance against Clay Guida, Jim Miller, Slava Claus, right? He's looked really good against some guys who used to be really good and against some up-and-comers. But when he fights these guys who are really just in their man strength, especially in the striking department, Alex Caceres, Steven Peterson, Steve Garcia, Alexander Hernandez, that is where Chase Hooper tends to struggle. So I think with Chase, you know, he's the type of guy I think you have to be delicate with what you give him the next few years. I think he's going to be a late bloomer when it comes to being an absolute superstar within the UFC. He's known, right? He's a guy who's very well known within the promotion, within the community. But I think it's going to be some time before we see him be, you know, ranked number 11, Chase Hooper, ranked number 8, Chase Hooper. I think it's going to be some time. He's going to be somebody that we are just going to see grow in front of our eyes continuously throughout the years, almost like an extended release, right? That is going to be the story of Chase Hooper. It's just going to keep going as time goes on. You're going to be like, oh, I'm not feeling it anymore. And then the extended release kicks in. And it's just, I think that's just going to be the definition of Chase Hooper. And I think Lance Gibson here is a good step forward towards winning ways. I mean, 9-2. Where have I seen him from? King Green, that's right. When the fuck did that happen? 2025 was a weird year for me. So I don't know shit really about Lance Gibson. But what I will say is, out of his 9 wins, 7 of them are by stoppage. Well-rounded, 4 knockouts, 3 subs, been knocked out once. Split decision with King Green. I got to rewatch that fight. I don't remember that. That is insanity. What fight night was that? That's nuts. But I'm going with Chase Hooper. I mean, he's just fought way better competition for longer of time, and he really is an elite submission specialist. Elite. All right, next up, Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune. Tyrell Fortune looking to make his UFC debut after his Bellator days. The wrestler taking on Marcin Tybura, who has just been a staple in the UFC for over 10 years now. You know, I mean, a guy who is the definition of a heavyweight mixed martial artist. His longevity speaks for itself. He is the definition of somebody who's going to test anybody in the UFC. I mean, if you can get past Marcin Tybura, you're probably going to have a pretty good and long career within the UFC to rank number 11. He's kind of been ranked about number 11 most of his career. He's just been able to stay right there in the thick of it. I mean, Tyrell Fortune, I mean, 17-3, right? But not the highest level of competition that you could say. I mean, obviously, as you spend your whole career outside of the UFC, but 11 wins by knockout. Marcelo Golm. Matt Mitrione. Tim Johnson beat him. Linton Vassell beat him. So, I mean, just off of that alone, I think Marcin Tybura, I think that he's going to probably get dropped in this fight, but I think that he's going to be able to weather the storm, take Tyrell down, and we're going to see probably a 29-28 victory from Marcin Tybura. Next up, Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill Fight Week. Fucking love this woman. I love her fight style. Phenomenal grappler, 10-2. At one point was a real problem, and I think she was dealing with a knee injury. You know, undefeated and everything at one point, and I think she had a torn ACL, fucked her knee up though, and of course, obviously, if you're a grappler and you got a fucked up knee, that does not help, right? But yeah, I mean, at one point she was 8-0. She had wins over Antonia Shevchenko, Roxanne Mataferi. Had to take some time off. Was it? I feel like she took more time off than that. But fought Jennifer Maia, lost, then got subbed by Ariane Lipski. Then now she's come back. She had to win over Luana Santos. Taking on Gabriela Fernandez, who, Gabriela, man, she's a fucking dog. She's a good fighter. And if I'm not mistaken, she's got fucking dynamite for kicks. No, it was the Kong Wang sub, that's right. I think she dropped her, though, before that had happened. Got the loss to Jasmine Jasdavicius. Got the win over Julia Stolyarenko. So, I mean, on the feet, she's definitely going to be better than Casey O'Neill. But if Casey can get this fight to the ground, if she can get Gabriela Fernandez down to the ground, we could definitely see a submission for Casey O'Neill. Maybe even just grind out a hard, top control type of fight. Grind out a victory. But I could also see Gabriela Fernandez, just kind of staying on the outside, fucking sticking and moving, kind of beating up Casey. But I think that she will just do enough and be able to blitz enough to get Gabriela on her back foot and probably get her off balance to find the takedown. So I'm going to go with Casey O'Neill, victory, decision, but I'm not crazy confident on it. Gabriela can definitely find the knockout in this fight. Next up, Navajo Sterling taking on Bruno Lopez, where you have Navajo 8-0. UFC, they're definitely view highly of this guy. They're definitely trying to keep him active and push him. Good striker, and against Bruno Lopez, where he is, has a decent record, but out of his losses, the times where he has struggled, it has been against strikers. And if I'm not mistaken, he's coming off of the loss to Dustin Jacoby, who is a phenomenal fucking kickboxer. Dustin Jacoby, I can talk. You can give me an hour to talk about fucking Dustin Jacoby, and I can go all day about that guy. Phenomenal, fucking phenomenal fighter. But here, Bruno Lopez, I mean, does not have a massively deep record. Yeah, a lot of wins, good amount of finishes. But the times that he's fought anyone who is UFC caliber, Brenson Ribeiro and Dustin Jacoby, it didn't go his way. And against Navajo Sterling, who's going to be bigger, who's going to be younger, more explosive, and also a good striker, go Navajo in this fight, and probably by knockout. I don't know though, because I remember Navajo not looking so great in his last fight. If I can fucking get it, dude. I'm getting punished by my fucking internet speed today. It's not even what I pressed. All right, I got Navajo Sterling by knockout over Bruno Lopez Saturday night. Next up, Ricky Simón versus Adrian Yanez. This is weird because it's on the fucking prelims. I feel like this is almost like my co-main event. Almost co-main event. But you got Ricky Simón, who's been around for quite some time, right? I mean, 22-7, ups and downs, hasn't really ever truly reached the potential that the UFC really thought. You know, it's a submission victory over Merab, had that knockout over Bashrat. But at one point, they put him up against Uriah Faber when Faber came back, and this was kind of like the beginning of the end for Ricky Simón, where Ricky was really moving forward, looking good, looking strong, young, explosive. Uriah Faber was coming out of retirement, and he wanted to fight somebody good. And Ricky, I think, was ranked 15 at the time. Like, made the most amount of sense for a guy like Faber who had been gone for so long to come back. And, you know, like, we can't give you a title fight, but I guess we'll give you Ricky Simón, right? And then cracked him, knocked him out, right? And Ricky hasn't really been able to find that sort of success since. He's had good performances, flashes, but I think he's lost about 5 out of his last 7, maybe. And yes, he's fought way, way better competition than Adrian Yanez has. But now again, Adrian Yanez, a very similar story, right? A guy who was riding a pretty nice win streak over guys like Randy Costa, Tony Kelly. There's one more in there, and then just kind of ran into, I think it was Jonathan Martinez and the Rob Font fight, right? They put him up against Rob Font, and he got fucking flatlined. And since then, you can see that his confidence hasn't necessarily been the same. He hasn't really been able to fight like himself since then. And really, I mean, this is a position here where loser of this fight, they're not going to be in the best of positions, but the winner definitely has an opportunity to get their career back on the right track. This is what you call a crossroads fight, where losers damn near close to getting sent home, but the winner definitely can use their name, their star power, and with this victory over a guy who also has some name and star power to really push themselves back into a conversation again. And if you were to ask me, I think Ricky Simón, I think he's going to be able to mix it up a little bit better than Yanez. I think his wrestling is a little bit better. Yanez is definitely the better boxer, better striker, but I think he's going to lack the power of Ricky Simón as well. So I think Ricky's going to get the job done by decision, probably 29-28. But yeah, I think Ricky's going to get the job done. Next up, Alexia Tainara versus Bruna Brazil, where this is kind of interesting because even though Alexia is like a minus 500 favorite, this is a rematch. She lost the first fight. Bruna Brazil choked her out like 6 years ago, but now their careers are kind of different. For Tainara, that was her only loss. She's 13-1. For Bruna Brazil, has had a bit, some ups and downs, 11-6, not the best record. So here, it's kind of funny where you have a rematch, but yet the odds are completely different than what the original fight kind of ended up being. But Tainara, it just goes to show how people are not the same. Fighters change, people evolve, and at 28 years old, it shows. Like, she's gotten into her adult strength. She's coming off the Molly McCann win. Loma Luke Boonmi. My God, I can't speak today. And, good grappling. 8 submission wins. So I'm curious to see if she can go out there and get a sub over somebody who subbed her in the past. But I'm going to go with the odds on this one. I think even though Bruna got the dub on her all those years ago, I think we've we see the evolution right here in front of us now. Bruna has been in the UFC for a while now, so she's definitely fought higher competition, but they've both fought the same people, 1-1. Lost to Kong Wang, not a bad loss. Ketlin Souza, not a bad loss, but it just goes to show she's fought tougher competition. So I'm going to take Alexia in this fight over Bruna in the second one. So guys, those are my picks for this Saturday. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you guys are still in it, if you guys are still listening, please subscribe. Please like the video. It always helps. But yeah, this is a sneaky good card. I think it's going to end up being a fun card. I think top to bottom, I think that they've sprinkled a little bit here, to keep people going, to keep the entertainment flowing. And yeah, so that's going to do it for today, guys. Yeah, Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.